All right, so let me just start by saying that I have nothing against Jardier. He seems like a nice guy. It seems like a very nice guy. He's done a lot of positive things for the sim racing community, ACC in particular. So no hate, but I do feel like I need to point out that this video he recently released makes no fucking sense. So let me just play you a couple of clips from that now. Obviously, feel free to go and watch the whole thing. I haven't just cherry picked a couple of little bits here, but I'll show you a couple of short clips that kind of demonstrate my point, and then we'll go through why they don't make sense.
I'm not bored of ACC, but I could not help to notice a huge drop of the players, which is obviously summer, and so on as every year. But the amount of the players right now in ACC is the lowest it's been in like 3 years. The numbers, what I was talking about, the peak players in the last 30 days has been 4,825. If you look at this data, it's basically second lowest in a year. So basically, like this summer right now, like it's obviously summer, right? So you can obviously check in the summer, but you can definitely see the player drop is being very big compared to the previous years. Like it's been quite big.
All right, so here's those stats that he brought up. Let's take a look at them. So last 30 days, we'll just count this as August because we're at the very end of August now. We had a peak player count, and I don't really know if average players or peak players is more important, so we'll kind of take a look at both. But for now, let's just focus on peak players. 4,800. Let's compare that to last year, August 2023, 4,500. So that's less. So it's actually improved over last year. Let's look at the year before then, August 2022, 4,500. So about the same as 2023, but we still improved on it this year. So 4,800 this year compared to 4,500 the last 2 years. What about 2021? Because that's 3 years ago, and he mentioned 3 years specifically. 4,100, so even lower than all of the others. What about average players? 1,600 3 years ago. 1,900 the next year, so that's an increase. And then 2,000 the next year, another increase. And then 2,200 this year, so another increase. So where's this downward trend? Where's this, massive loss of players that he's talking about? And you might think I've just cherry-picked August, just this 1 month, and all the rest are actually worse. But no, feel free to go through and compare loads of months. They're pretty much all, there's the occasional exception, but they're pretty much all better this year than they were for the last 3 years. So I just don't understand where he's getting this information from. And he even showed these stats on his video. And like the easiest way to kind of get a feel for it is to just look at the average players. Like if we go back a few years, they're in like the low to mid 1,000s all the time. Okay, 1,300, 1,400. Occasionally they dip up to the high 1,000s, but for the most part in 2020, they're all low 1,000s. And then 2021, they're now high 1,000s or 2,000. So this is all 2021. They're all, nearly 2,000, occasionally dipping into 2,000. 2022, they're staying about the same, the occasional dip into the mid-2000s, but mostly just around 2000. 2023, we're now in the mid-2000s most of the time, 2,500, 2,400. Occasionally down to the low 2000s, again mid-2000s, high 2000s, but never dipping below 2000. And then 2024, we're now mid-2000s, high 2000s all the time, the occasional 3,000, and then now we're back to mid to low 2000s. It's just, I don't see a downward trend here at all. Now, I'm not trying to say that the game's growing massively or anything like that. I think it's just growing a tiny bit year after year, which is fine and quite impressive for a game this old, to be honest. But yeah, there's no downward trend here that I'm seeing. And again, it's the same with the peak player counts. There's the occasional month, like I said, where it might be slightly lower than it was 2 years ago, but it's still higher than it was last year or whatever. But yeah, just in general, the whole trend seems to be slightly going upwards. Now, if he's experiencing less players in his games, I can't argue with that. I don't know what he's experiencing. I'm sure he's not just making that up. But to say that, ACC's dead or whatever and it's dying and there's a massive, he literally says there was a massive drop of players. There's just not. I'm not seeing it. And I guess this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine because ever since I got the game 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I remember even back then, every time there was a new update, people on Reddit would be saying, oh, this is definitely the last update. The game's dead now. There's no more content coming. And then the next update would drop and it's the same story. Everyone, oh, the game's going to be dead now. This is definitely the last update. They won't support it for much longer. And this has gone on for nearly 3 years. And I think now, because AC Evo is coming out soon, it might actually be true that they're not going to support it for much longer. I'm not going to supply content anymore. But this thing of people just saying the game's dead, the game's dying, People just love to say this for some reason. I used to be really into Rainbow Six Siege. Every fucking season, people would be like, game's dead. And it would just be growing. If you actually looked at the numbers, it would be growing and growing constantly. And everyone would constantly just be saying on Reddit and YouTube comments and whatever, oh, the game's dying, game's dead. People, for some reason, just love to say that. So, I don't know. It's just a bit annoying when a big YouTuber, like probably the biggest voice in ACC content creation, I would say, says that the game's dead. Well, then that's going to eventually start to make more people think the game is dead, and then less people will get into it. It becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. I just felt the need to kind of correct that, because the very same data that he showed in the video doesn't seem to support it at all. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know if I'm missing something. Maybe there's some stats somewhere that I'm just not seeing. But yeah, the game's not dead. So don't worry. You'll still be able to jump on at pretty much any time of day, find a public lobby at Monza, and just murder everyone at T1.